My daughter, who's in her mid early 20s, um, sent me a text the other day and asked, "What are the things to be aware of when buying a car from a rando?" Meaning a random individual. So buying used cars can be a great way to save money on vehicle expenses. You're going to save on the purchase price. The depreciation of a new car is pretty extensive. It drops so fast. So if you get a car that's 4 or 5 years old, you're going to miss out a lot of that depreciation. You're going to pay less in interest overall if you get financing, and your insurance will be a little bit less on a used car because the value is lower for a used car than a new car. Anytime that you buy a car, it's kind of a gamble, especially a used car. But doing a little bit of research in advance and making sure that you inspect the vehicle carefully can turn the odds more into your favor. So a couple of guidelines for car purchasing and a few things that we learned really quickly from the experience that we had with my daughter buying a vehicle. One rule is I like to look at cars that are 4 years old, between 4 and 5 years old. So those are cars that have taken most of the hit in depreciation, but they're still new enough cars that they're reliable and they're going to run for many years to come. Make sure that you're putting a large down payment if you're financing it. The best down payment is 100%. So if you can pay cash, that's the best. Be patient, save up your money, pay cash. But if you are financing, make sure that you put a large enough down payment that you can easily cover the payment, that it's not going to stress your budget. But make sure that you don't put all of your cash down, because cars break down and wear out. You're going to need new tires. There's maintenance and repairs that will come with a car. So you're going to need to have a little bit of cash on hand to cover those kinds of things. One interesting thing, the credit union really likes to have 4 years of credit history, 4 years of living in the same place, and 4 years on the same job. So 4 years seems to be the magic number of proving that you are a stable person. We actually ended up co-signing with my daughter because it dropped the interest rate from 6% to like 3.9. So it dropped the interest rate considerably to have somebody with some credit history. Another interesting thing that the loan officer told her was the credit card credit that you build from having a credit card. He said that doesn't hold a lot of weight. They like to see things that are longer term, like a car loan or a home loan, that you can consistently make the payment and that you're responsible to make sure things get done on a long-term basis. That was interesting. My daughter ended up at the credit union with most things that she needed. So it's good to talk to your loan officer and get an actual list and go through a checklist to make sure that you arrive at your financing with all of the paperwork that you need. That's going to include things like your social security number, the bill of sale or the title to the vehicle, financing information from if there's a loan on the car currently, they need all that loan information so they can work it out between the lending institutions and get that title transferred and the loans paid off. If it's an out-of-state registration, which my daughter ran into this time, was the loan officer can look up anything in state, but he couldn't look out of state at out-of-state registrations. So she had to have a copy of the registration for the vehicle to take with her when she went to get her loan. Many times they're going to want your pay stubs to verify that you have an income. Another thing to think about, if you're in your early 20s like my daughter is, you may want to have a co-signer lined up in advance. So if you go in and they're like, well, your interest rate's double because you don't have a credit history, have somebody lined up in advance who's willing to co-sign for you so you're not just stuck taking the higher interest rate or giving up the car altogether. But with co-signers, make sure that the co-signer knows they are signing on the loan. If it gets behind or defaults, they are responsible and it will affect their credit. And you need to make sure that you take that trust seriously that the cosigner is putting in you and be prepared to protect your cosigner's credit. Be very open with your cosigner. If you come across hard times, you need to be open with your cosigner and let them know, do not let that payment get behind without talking to your cosigner, because it will affect their credit. Remember that they're doing you a huge favor. They're taking a risk. Make sure that you repay it well. One other tip, if you're looking at several different cars across your city, just a quick tip is to organize those by the location. Make sure that you're not driving to the north end of the valley and then the south end of the valley and then back to the north end and over to the east and then to the west and back to the east. Make sure you just kind of organize those. What I like to do is organize by cities that I'm going to go in, kind of a driving route, and I'll just number those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on how many vehicles I'm looking at in the areas, and then just put that number at the first. So I'll put number 3 for the area, number 3, and then the dash, and put like the city name, and then I'll put an identifier, like if it's an individual or their contact information, and then I'll put the make, model, price, and mileage of the car. And I'll just keep a notebook or a spreadsheet of that for any cars that I'm looking at as I do my research. That way I have cars organized in a way that I can easily sort my spreadsheet and have them in a geographically organized manner if I need to go out and look at multiple cars on the same day. So let's get into research. The first step in buying a car is research. Do your research before you even start calling individuals. There's a lot of research that you can do on vehicles, and specifically even on the specific vehicle that you're looking at. Set a guide for what you want, what price, how high are you willing to go on price, how many miles can a vehicle have before it disqualifies itself out of your limits. Set your rules for what you're looking for, and when things fall outside of those rules, drop them off your list. Another thing to be aware of is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. There's something wrong with the deal or something wrong with the car. If it's too good to be true, it probably is. It makes it easier if you pick out a specific model or two of a vehicle that you like and that you want to purchase. What you can do then is do the research on those specific models and get to know the models and the years that you're looking at, so you know the nuances of those vehicles, the good and the bad, so you go in educated when you purchase a vehicle. As you look at the different models that you're researching, one thing that you're going to want to look at is you're going to want to shop around for the going price. Make sure that you shop around for those models enough that you know what a good price is on the model. The Kelley Blue Book, the NADA, those things can give you a base price of the Blue Book value of the vehicle for that specific year and model and miles, and just become educated with what pricing you're looking at. And the thing to really be aware of, the Blue Book's going to give you a nice base, but be aware of what the trends are in your current area for the model of vehicle. So based on supply and demand, the vehicle price will fluctuate a little bit around that Blue Book value. So be aware of kind of the street value, the current street value of the make and model that you're looking at. Do a little bit of research on the model and make sure that it's not a problem model. Make sure that the year, make, and model that you're considering buying is not something that's a troubled model. And I'll put a link to JD Power. They have some ratings for vehicles that'll help you just get a little bit of information on how they're rated, how they're lasting, the reliability of the vehicle. And while you're at JD Power, check the gas mile ratings. That's always a nice thing to know if you're going to get good gas mileage or if it's going to suck gas. That's something to consider when you're looking at your budget. what kind of gas mileage you're going to get on this thing. Another thing I learned recently is that you can actually run a title search with the VIN number for free. And you can get basic information on the title. You can get those through the vehiclehistory.gov. And another thing to look at would be the recall notices for that make and model and year. And those are at safercar.gov. And I'll put the links in the description below. Check the manufacturer's warranty. See if that manufacturer's warranty is still in place and if it will apply and transfer to you. And be aware if you have issues that are covered under warranty, make sure that you use that warranty. Check how much it will cost you to add that make and model of vehicle to your insurance. Make sure that that's something you can put into your budget. The cost of financing the car is not the only cost. We need to make sure that we're looking at the additional maintenance, repairs, and insurance costs as well for the budget. One more thing to look at on research, as you start researching this, how much are you going to pay in sales tax? When you take your vehicle to the DMV and register that and get your license plates, you're going to pay sales tax. So get an idea of what the current sales tax is for your area and run that against the price so you know how much money you need to come up with when you register your vehicle. Okay, so let's move on to financing. Number one, pay cash if possible. And I realize that's not feasible for many people, especially as you're young and starting out. You know, an $8,000 to $12,000 car is a pretty good chunk of cash to have saved up. But pay cash if possible. Think in total price of the vehicle. We're not concerned as much about the monthly payment, other than we need to make the monthly payment. So it's something, you know, the amount has to be something we can make. But we don't want to make a low monthly payment for 10 years if we can make the same monthly payment or a little bit higher monthly payment for 3 years and cut our financing costs by 2/3. So look at the total cost of the vehicle. Shop for financing. Financing a car is a service that lenders offer. This is a service that they want to sell you. Obviously, you've got to qualify. If you're a terrible risk, they're not going to give you the money. But if you are close to having the ability to pay, they're going to want to give you the money so they can make money off of that product, off of that loan that they sell you. But do a little bit of shopping, look around. If you're a member of a local credit union or a local bank, check there with the car loan officer. In my experience, that's been a really good place to go, and they take pretty good care of me. Look for a loan that is 3 years or less. So try to get 36-month financing or less, and make sure that that payment is something that you can handle easily in your budget. If the payment starts pushing beyond what you can finance for 36 months and make the payment easily in your budget, you're probably buying too much car, or you don't have enough savings. Your down payment's not big enough. It's probably time to pull back a little bit, save a little bit more money for your down payment, or reduce the amount of car that you're buying. Go for something a little bit less expensive. Another thing that was pointed out again with my daughter buying a car was the advertised interest rates that you see on your bank or credit union are typically for new car loans. When you go with a used car to get a loan, you're going to pay a little bit higher interest rate. So just be aware of that. Calculate that into your numbers. And with financing, just make sure that you glance over, read the documents, make sure that the numbers look right. If anything looks out of place, the numbers are different than what they told you on the interest rate, the car loan amount, the payments, the terms, how many months it's going to be. Look over those so you understand what's going on and make sure that those numbers look right before you sign those. Okay, so you've done your research a little bit. You know the car. You've looked at financing, and You're ready to go buy a car. So once you find a car that you want to get information on, the specific vehicle, I like to call the owner and ask them some questions. So I like to ask them how long they've owned the car, which you should already know because you ran the title search with the VIN number, and just see when they bought it and see if that agrees with what you found on the title search. And just ask them kind of a history of the car. You know, how's it been running? How long have you owned it? Has it been good? Do you run it on the highway? You know, what kind of miles do you put on it? Ask them if there's any oil leaks or any kind of fluid leaks, anything like that. Ask them what they love about the car, if there are things that bug them about the car. Ask them why they're selling it. Ask them if the title is clear. Again, you should already know this, but just, you know, ask them if it's been in an accident. Sometimes the accidents don't actually get reported up to the title people. If somebody repairs it themselves, or if it doesn't go through the insurance company, many times vehicles will get repaired without ever having that affect the title. So ask them if it's been any kind of fender benders or accidents that they're aware of. Ask them what kind of gas mileage they're getting on it and compare that to what the, like JD Power says the gas mileage should be. Ask them if they're okay with you taking the vehicle into a mechanic for an inspection. Okay, so once you've talked to the owner, you want to go test drive the car. A couple of things. Number one, take somebody with you. This is good to have them help you inspect the car, get another set of eyes on the car to see things that you didn't notice. And it's a good thing for safety. Make sure that you have at least 2 people when you go shopping for cars, and make sure that you're not driving into crazy, scary neighborhoods. It's not worth buying a car. The next thing is to take some paper towels with you. You want to check the oil. You want to look at the oil and see what it looks like. Take a notebook with you and a pen to jot down notes. If you're looking at multiple cars in the same day, it's going to get kind of confusing to keep the facts straight. So just jot down notes on a notebook, or use your phone. Take pictures. So if you look at multiple cars and you want to come back to one, then you have the information there before you for quick access. Take a flashlight. You're going to want to look under the bottom of the car and just make sure that there aren't signs of leaking fluids. So when you get there, walk around the exterior of the car. Just make sure that the overall appearance of the car looks good. Look for any kind of dents or scratches, repairs, mismatched paint. Make sure that the key fob works. Take a close look at the windows. You know, look at the windshield especially to make sure that there are no cracks or pits or chips that might run soon. Make sure that the panels of the vehicle fit together well. Open all the doors, the trunk, the hood. Make sure they open and shut smoothly and that they fit well together. Take a peek at the tires. Now the tires are going to wear out. That's part of having a car, but make sure that the tires on there look good. Make sure that there's no funny wear patterns. Look on the inside, especially of the front tires. If the inside of the front tires is worn, it could be an indication that they haven't rotated their tires properly, or that maybe it's pulling and wearing out the tires funny. It may be worth having a tire store look at that if the tires are really worn on one side. It may be worth just checking the alignment, make sure that it's not pulling funny and that it's a temporary problem that's easily fixed. Test all the lights. The blinkers, the headlights, the brake lights. This is where your buddy comes in handy. Put them in the car, have them push the lights or push the brakes, turn on the blinkers, turn the high beams on, the low beams on the headlights. Ask the owner if they have service records for the vehicle. You know, somebody who has meticulous, detailed records of their services, that's probably somebody who takes really good care of their car. Just because somebody doesn't have records doesn't mean the car hasn't been taken care of, but having meticulous notes and detailed records and receipts is somebody who typically takes really good care of their stuff. Okay, so on the interior, the first thing you're going to do is you're open the doors and you're going to climb in. Pay attention to the smell. Does it smell like animals? Does it smell like smoke? Is it musty and smell like mold? Those are really hard smells to get rid of. you're going to have to live with those for a long time. In fact, a musty, moldy smell could be a sign of water damage, and so you need to find out why it smells like that. If the car smells awful, the chances are it's probably time to just check that off your list and move on. Look at all the seats and the carpets. Make sure that the wear and tear is appropriate for the age of the vehicle. A 4 or 5 year old vehicle should show basically no signs of wear. Make sure that you look up at the roof of the car. Make sure there's nothing crazy up there. Make sure that it's, not pulled down or anything. Make sure that somebody hasn't popped their Pepsi and hit the top of the roof. Open all the interior doors, the glove box, any kind of doors on the dash. Make sure that they open and close smoothly. Turn all the knobs, press all the buttons, make sure that everything works. Turn the key, make sure that the dashboard lights, all the control lights light up. But make sure that there are no check engine lights on. Another thing to make sure you check is the air conditioning and the heating. So depending on the time of year that you go check, if you're in the wintertime, a lot of the times we don't think about checking the AC, or in the summer, we don't think about checking the heating. Make sure that you run both of those and make sure that everything's running well. And check for the owner's manual. See if the original owner has that owner's manual in the car. Okay, next, climb out, pop the hood, look under the hood, make sure that the engine looks clean. Check the body around the outside of the engine, especially in the front. Make sure there aren't any signs of bent metal or fender bender type things. Check the headlights would be another time. Look inside, make sure the headlights look the same. If one headlight is crystal clear and the other one's not as crystal clear, that's sometimes a sign of a little fender bender. Look at the belts and hoses, just make sure that they don't look worn. If you're buying a vehicle that's 4 or 5 years old, you should see basically no wear on those. And again, make sure that you check the oil, the transmission fluid, the brake fluid, and power steering fluid. Just make sure that the levels look good and that the oil looks nice and clean. And then finally, the test drive. So take it out on the street, get out on the highway, get some speeds. You want highway speeds. Make sure that everything sounds good. There aren't any squeaks or rattles or shimmies. Drive it in the neighborhoods, stop and go traffic. Make sure you make some corners. Just test it in all driving conditions. So you fall in love with the car and you're ready to buy it. Make sure they have the title. They should either have the title in hand if it's paid for, or they will know the information for their lender who has the title. So no title, no money. You don't give money until you have a title in hand. Another thing, speaking of titles, is to get a title from your state if you have one of your own cars, or look one up online, or a friend, and just look at it and see what it takes to sign that over. So if you're an individual, you buy a car from someone, the car's paid for, they have the title, make sure that you know what it takes to sign that title over. It's typically writing a date, the mileage when it was sold, the amount that it was sold for, the old owner's information, the new owner's name and address information, that kind of thing. It's usually pretty basic information, but make sure that you're just familiar with that so you know how to make sure it gets done right. Good luck buying a car. Make sure that you always have your car payment going to yourself, so you're building a car fund so you can pay cash for cars. That's the ultimate goal here. We'll try to get past the financing. Financing is a 1 or 2 time thing, and then after that, we want to pay cash for cars. I'll put some links in the description below for the title searches and the recall notices and JD Power, so you can get some information off that VIN number. If this has helped at all, please subscribe, hit the like button, put a comment if you want me to cover a specific topic. Remember that your money is making somebody rich. Let's make sure that it's you.